And 50 years ago today, American President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in Dallas, Texas. A 24-year-old named Lee Harvey Oswald was charged with shooting JFK, and Oswald himself was shot by Jack Ruby 2 days later during a transfer to county jail. But while the official investigation concluded that Oswald acted alone, many people question that wisdom. Fidel Castro, who faced off against JFK during the Cuban Missile Crisis and the Bay of Pigs invasion, said in recent years, quote, "I have reached the conclusion that Oswald could not have been the one who killed Kennedy." And on this subject, a majority of Americans agree with Castro. While 30% of Americans think that one man was responsible for killing JFK, a full 61% think that the death was part of a larger conspiracy. So why do so many Americans doubt the official narrative when it comes to JFK? To talk more about this, I was joined earlier by Breaking the Set host Abby Martin. I first asked her about why so many people have already rejected the official narrative.
I think as the official narrative quickly fell apart, and unlike then, now with the advancement of the internet, and I think Oliver Stone's movie JFK really helped people kind of understand the enormous inconsistencies with the official narrative and all the really facts that came out later on.
Tell me about some of those facts.
Of course. Well, the autopsy report was burned initially. Over 50 witnesses heard a fourth shot coming from the grassy knoll area. That's a lot of people hearing a different account from what we were told. Professional snipers have tried to replicate Lee Harvey Oswald's shots from the book depository, couldn't do it. No one has ever been able to do that to this day. E. Howard Hunt, deathbed confession, said, "We killed JFK." Oswald had CIA ties. He was working in a coffee shop a stone's throw away from a covert action coordinator for the CIA. There's so many more. I mean, I'll just say one more. The House Select Commission on Assassinations actually concluded a couple decades later through forensic evidence that there was indeed more shots and that Oswald was not the lone perpetrator. We're talking about an actual congressional...
Yet they never reinvestigated this after the Warren Commission came out.
You know what? You know, and hours after the event, the Warren Commission actually just made its conclusions. I mean, and they just kind of followed through. So they already had their conclusions, just already preconceived, and so they fit the evidence to kind of fit around those conclusions, right. And it's just really unfortunate.
Well, what are the theories out there?
There's a lot. There's a lot of them. I think
ranging from the same to the
yeah. We're not talking about space aliens here. We're talking about people who had to have been involved in order for the cover-up to be facilitated in the way it did. And I think when people say it's the mafia killed him because you saw Bobby Kennedy, his brother, and also JFK initiating a coordinated effort to kind of go after organized crime, which was something that no one else had really done. And people say, well, the mafia took him out. But the problem with that is that that's too easy almost, because really could the mafia have conducted and orchestrated the cover-up to the extent that the government did? I think a lot of people say it wasn't just mafia. That would be too easy. It had to have been, you know, the CIA being involved and the mafia, and some people even speculate big oil, and some people say just Johnson coordinated with the CIA to do it. Roger Stone, who was Nixon's presidential advisor, said that he heard Nixon multiple times say he was definitely assassinated, and that the Warren Commission was the shoddiest piece of
wow.
investigation
very
ever.
Interesting, and I wish we could actually find out which one of those theories is the truth. But, you know, when people look back at JFK's legacy, he has a 90% approval rating. That is very different, I think, from, where most presidents sort of finish their terms. Just look at President Obama. It doesn't look like he's going to be finishing very high. But do you think his assassination really feeds into that, how high his approval ratings are to this day?
Absolutely. And, I'm not one to really be keen on historical revisionism. I'm sure Kennedy wasn't as great as a guy as we hear. In fact, he was quite a womanizer, and the disastrous Bay of Pigs invasion, which really was a scar on his record. But, Oliver Stone, I was talking to him earlier, Breaking the Set interview, and he was telling me why Kennedy was indeed different. Let's take a listen to that.
Okay. Kennedy inherited this office as a young man, and he was suspected by the military leaders, the hardliners of the U.S., that he did not have the wherewithal to really continue the Eisenhower policy. He had failed to do so in Laos, to go in to send ground troops. He'd failed in Cuba at the Bay of Pigs to give it the air support that it needed to win. He failed in Vietnam to really carry through a much more engaged process with the Vietnamese. He sent non-combat advisors, but not combat people. We wouldn't be alive if Kennedy had not done what he did at the Cuban Missile Crisis with Khrushchev. We were really at the edge of war. This had come. They wanted, the Joint Chiefs of Staff wanted to go. They wanted to invade Cuba.
One other thing that Oliver Stone didn't mention there, but that he actually stood up to the Joint Chiefs of Staff's Robert McNamara against Operation Northwoods plans, which was a really extreme plan to invade Cuba, which Kennedy actually rejected at that point. So that is a really
very interesting. Well, Abby, I want to quickly talk to you about the term conspiracy theory. I know that's something that you cover all the time on your show. Of course, it has a negative connotation, but somehow that's not the case with the JFK assassination, at least these days. First of all, tell me, how damaging is this terminology to really important thoughts and ideas that are sort of, go against the grain, outside of the mainstream narrative? And then why is it that the JFK assassination was able to bypass that somehow?
I actually disagree. I think that the majority of people, even though they do believe that JFK was assassinated by a conspiracy, I think that they would still shut you down. I mean, look at the mainstream media, and there was actually a concerted effort on behalf of the CIA. This is a really interesting part. After the JFK assassination happened, there was an actual CIA memo that said, let's inject this term, conspiracy theory, in, we know about Operation Mockingbird, where they actually infiltrated a lot of the mainstream media, CIA. I mean, we're talking about where they actually inserted this narrative to shut down questioning. And now it's evolved into a pejorative term that's basically shut down questioning and debate about anything that contradicts official government narratives.
It's become synonymous with anything alternative. Yeah. And that's a true shame. But Abby Martin, host of Breaking the Set, thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Mira.